Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Talk on Nevada. I'm your host, Andy Matthews. Grading Nevada's teachers, that's the subject of this week's show. And here to join me and talk about it is Patrick Gibbons, an education policy analyst at the Nevada Policy Research Institute. Patrick, welcome.
Good morning.
Patrick, you wrote a commentary this week on this topic of evaluating teachers, and it would seem an obvious thing to do. Okay, you want to keep an eye on which teachers are performing, which aren't. But you make a point in your commentary to give some specific reasons as to why this is so important. Get into some of those for us.
Research has shown that the most important factor for a student is the teacher. So teacher quality is very, very important.
So what are we doing now to evaluate teachers in Nevada? Is there a process in place?
Right now, Nevada's teachers face a fairly subjective evaluation. It's basically the personal opinion of the principal. The teachers know the date of the evaluation, and the principal comes in and observes a classroom, looks at management styles, classroom preparation, and a lot of stuff that isn't related to whether or not the students are learning anything in that classroom.
Why don't we base it on, because you would think it would make sense to base it on how effective they're being, are students learning? Where's the resistance to that coming from?
Well, the Nevada Revised Statutes has a provision in there, it's 386.650, that prohibits the use of student testing data to evaluate teachers. And teachers really feel like it would be unfair to evaluate them because there's a whole bunch of factors that go into a student, their socioeconomic status, race, and ability, parental involvement. Some students have mental handicaps, so they feel like if there's these certain things about that student that would make them more likely to traditionally underperform others, that they'd be unfairly graded because of that and penalized.
That's legitimate, isn't it? I mean, if you're a teacher, you happen to, in a given year, be dealt a tough hand, or you have a particularly difficult group of students, you don't want to be compared to what students in another classroom that may be in a better position to succeed. I mean, isn't there some legitimacy, to that concern there?
There is. Unfortunately, there is a better way of evaluating teachers that's both fair to the teachers and will also help students at the same time.
What is that?
It's called value-added assessment. And basically what it is, instead of grading students, their performance, meeting certain benchmarks or criteria each year, or rather than grading students based on their performance relative to other students, you simply grade the students based on their past year's performance at the beginning of the year. So you're essentially looking at how much gain the student makes from year to year. And this method is very fair to the teachers because it only grades that individual student and compares them to their own past scores. And what you do is you create this trend line over time, and this trend line helps predict where that student will be. And if there's a student in a class that happens to fall below that trend line in a particular year, and he's in a class with a whole bunch of other students that are in the same situation, you then know that there's something with that teacher, that they're not adding the value to that student's learning. And the same thing with students who are above that line. If there's a whole bunch of students in the class above that line, then you've got a teacher who's highly effective and is adding more value than they would predict.
Now, obviously, we're not doing this here in Nevada today. Has this model been implemented anywhere else in the country?
Yes, I know that it started in Tennessee in 1992. I believe the city of Dallas has one, and there's other urban districts and states that try this out as well.
All right, Patrick, well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks very much for joining us. Of course, we'll continue to monitor this topic and see if this idea gets any traction here in Nevada. Of course, I want to thank all of you for joining us in this week's edition of Talk on Nevada. As always, we invite you to join us on the web at npri.org for more information on this topic and other private solutions to public challenges facing our Silver State. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.